So welcome everyone. This is overview about a journey that you can take using GitLab professional services utilities journey to migrate or to transform your data from Azure DevOps to GitLab. And together with Michael Leopard, we are going to demonstrate you different tools that we've built so far over the last time, to support that transformation. So let me start with just a quick overview. So basically at the top, you see a sample data. So we have Azure DevOps cloud organization. So basically dev.azure.com, that what indicates that it's a cloud one. Keep in mind that there's also options where you can see Azure DevOps as self-managed. So they call it Azure DevOps Server. There could be also an old version of Azure DevOps called Team Foundation Server, or TFS for short. There are some differences, like some minor differences in APIs that we unfortunately don't support with our tool, but overall, the core functionality that we built in our tooling would produce pretty much the same result that you're going to see today during the demo. So, the very first step in the journey would be to get some kind of analysis around the Azure DevOps organization. To do that, we do have a tool called Evaluate, as you all know, and we extended support with Azure DevOps. So basically, it supports cloud and self-managed version together with the TFS. And the way we run the migration is basically, the way we run we generate the report is basically we run evaluate command, and it calls all different API endpoints using the REST API of Azure DevOps, uses Microsoft Graph API to pull the data. And what we see right now on the screen is that we are going over the organization, then over the projects, and then everything that contains, like all the information that contains the project. So the reason we do that, because we want to collect different data points, and then these data points can be assessed by the engagement managers, by the TAs, or by the customer to understand the complexity of the migration and caveats, maybe some constraints from the from the GitLab and Azure DevOps perspective. Keep in mind that two platforms, they, like, from the core perspective, they produce the same, but they were built with different philosophies in mind. Therefore, there might be some differences. So, for example, from the pipeline perspective or from the work items perspective. So you will see that in the migration as well. So we finished the data collection. Now I'm just going to switch to the Excel report. So this is my Excel report where I can see at the first tab, I can see kind of high-level information about this work. So what it tells me is that it has 31 projects. It has 51 Git repositories. It also has TFVC. So that's a proprietary Microsoft protocol for the source control. And so in this organization, we do have 6 of those as well. So it tells me that I have 19 users. I also have some agent pools. So think about this. It's like a runner, like from the terminology of the GitLab. So basically 11 agent pools or runners. That's how many runners registered on Azure DevOps in this case. So we also have some variables, and we also have some wikis. So basically that gives me kind of high-level picture what information I have on Azure DevOps side. And then over here I have various tabs, so I can drill down in them and then see like more specific topics. So for example, users. So we can see all the various users we have. The way our customers use this information is that maybe some of these users are no longer part of the organization, or some of these users has to be transformed. So for example, they do have this strange email that ends with onmicrosoft.com, but maybe that has to be kind of compliant with our SSO. So basically, we need to transform that, and we can use that information to kind of build that sort of mutation during the migration. So we can also have a look at the agent pool. So here we have information about what agent pools are registered. if they are in use, if they're legacy, so we can see if they're hosted, so the amount of workers in the pool, the owner of the pool, and then that kind of give me a high level picture of what's the situation around the runners, and when I do the migration, how exactly I have to be prepared to handle the same workloads. So there's a tab about the variables. So in Azure DevOps, there are multiple ways to keep the data secret and use them in the pipelines, and then we pull that info as well. In this page, what I can learn is that there are some data secrets. So for example, this password tells me that it's secret. And unfortunately, programmatically, it's not going to be possible to pull the data, meaning that, for example, this value has to be migrated manually. So when I move on to the next tab, which is projects, so this tab we usually use for classification. So for example, if I want to understand the complexity of my projects on Azure DevOps side, I can have a look at this and understand that complexity. And then what I can do as a next step is classify classify the data, and then I can kind of do the migrations in order. So for example, the first one can be the most simplest one, where I don't have a lot of constraints or dependencies or complexities. And how I can find out that? Well, I can, for example, look at if the project has any work items. So the work items would be a planning functionality from similar to what we have in GitLab planning. So basically working with work items, issues, epics. And if I see that, that's going to be more complicated than the project without the work items. The reason being is that because two platforms like Azure DevOps and GitLab, they are different, let's say, from how data looks like and the capabilities of the planning functionality. And therefore, before blindly do a migration of this data, it would be beneficial to have a conversation with the planning team. So basically with the product owners, with the project managers, and people that are using this part of the functionality of Azure DevOps on a daily basis, and make sure that the new way of working is aligned with their requirements. And then as a next step, of course, we can use the automation for the migration. And the migration part, Michael will demonstrate in minutes. How else I can use this report? Well, I can also have a look at the pipelines. So for example, we have some insights around the pipelines. So over here, we do have separation on the build definition, classic, the YAML definition, like multi-stage pipeline, and the classic release. So what it tells me, well, in some projects I do have, let's say, a lot of pipelines. So the pipelines have to be either transformed using AI capability, like we're going to demonstrate that to you in a minute, or they have to be crafted from scratch, or maybe CI/CD components have to be produced beforehand, so then the teams can consume the CI/CD components when they move to the new platform. So there are multiple options, but with this kind of report, we can understand what are the dependencies and the constraints we have for migration a particular project. So moving on to the raw repository data. So basically, think about it like in Azure DevOps, you have organization, then you have project, and then within each project you have Git repository. So the way we migrate this data is the following. So the Azure DevOps project becomes a group or subgroup on a GitLab side, and then each individual Git repository or TFS repository becomes an individual GitLab project. So that's how we map it. And then now, if I look at the individual repository, these are all Git data, by the way, on this tab. So what this page tells me, well, it tells me the project complexities. So here, what I can see, whether it has pull requests or not. So in this case, we do have a couple of repositories where we have pull requests. We're going to handle them during the migration as well. So it also tells me the overall size, the state of the repository, and the number of commits and branches. Well, this is more like a heads up whether it's going to take a long time or not for the migration. So for example, this one, it might take a while to get them over during the migration, but it's more like an indication for me, like kind of heads up. And then two last things that I skipped. So the first one is the pipeline. We do pull the data per each project to understand what kind of pipelines are present in the ADO project. So in this case, we basically separate them by by type. Earlier we saw that here. So basically in this three columns, and then this is more detailed view. So basically with the links to get to the pipeline definition, maybe I want to explore what kind of complexity we have in the pipeline. But here, what we have, so we have a couple of multi-stage pipeline, a couple of classic pipelines, and again, we got a reference, so we can basically check them and then maybe talk with the customer what exactly is expected during the migration. So the final tab would be feeds. So feeds, think about feeds. It's like a GitLab package functionality. So in this case, what we do, we pull information about the packages, versions, and their nature, because in Azure DevOps, in a similar way, like we have a virtual repository on the GitLab side. So in a similar way, some packages can be cached, which are coming from the upstream, and we also capture that. So with this report, I can also classify what kind of packages I need to migrate and what kind of packages I don't have to migrate. So for example, if there are packages coming from NPM, like an Express, like from NPM GS, I don't really have to migrate it because I can resolve that from the upstream later on when I do that on GitLab side. And we capture that in this report. So basically you can understand that, this Express package is not necessary to migrate because, in one of the column we indicate that it's coming from the upstream. So basically, in this case, only three top. These are the private packages that we've built, and therefore they don't have any upstream, and therefore most likely only these three packages I need to migrate. The rest can be resolved. Like I said, in this case, they are coming from npm JS. So we can completely skip them because later, when everything is on the GitLab site, we can resolve them via the virtual repository, like via the upstream. So that's pretty much it, what I wanted to demonstrate. Are there any questions or any comments regarding the report? All right, so then I stop sharing. Michael, over to you.
Thanks, Evgeny. I'll get my screen share going. So for those who haven't used Evaluate before, it is also open source. It's a tool that we expect customers to run so that we're prepared going into like a scoping discussion. And just if anyone's planning out a migration to GitLab, we cover a handful of different source types with it as well. Okay, so what I'm going to cover here is doing a migration, conducting the actual migration from ADO to GitLab. So I have a small slide here real quick to cover kind of the tooling we're going to be using. So in professional services, we have a migration utility, it's called Congregate. It is a wrapper around a lot of different APIs from a lot of different tools, and we use it so that we can do migrations at scale. So this is built upon the importers that GitLab provides directly in the product. ADO is a fully custom importer that we built, so list, stage, migrate, and post migration is handled all completely within Congregate. So what we're going to cover in this is when we're doing a list that's pulling down the snapshot of metadata. I'm going to skip that just for the sake of time. We will stage a project from Azure DevOps. We will then migrate it, and then we'll handle all the post-migration tasks, which would cover some additional data. And I'll walk through what those different pieces are. So when we're configuring Congregate to do a migration, there are some ADO-specific pieces. This is just a snippet of our configuration template. So we're configuring Congregate to point to Azure DevOps for a source. We're specifying the API version to match ADO SaaS. We are going to do some pipeline conversions in this demo. And if you want to look up more information on Congregate, it's publicly available on GitLab.com. And you can see kind of some of the different configuration options we have available, as well as the different sources that we support. So I'm going to migrate the MyAwesome project with the repo within GitLab PS Sandbox. So I'm going to stage that specific project first. Um, So once we've done a list in Congregate, we basically have the metadata to work with. It's going to stage some data. Congregate by default has a dry run capability. We're going to kind of skip that just for the sake of time again. But so we do have the project staged to migrate. We have already migrated the users. The reason for that is creating users from ADO or other sources is this basically the same process. There's not really a lot of difference. So we're going to just focus on converting this Azure DevOps project to a GitLab group and a project. So with that, I'm going to skip users to say we were already good. I'm going to go forward into running the commit. And so we're going to let this run for a bit. It's migrating from here in ADO into this GitLab instance we have spun up. It'll migrate into this group we already specified called ADO migration. And basically what's happening under the hood is, while this runs for a second, we're pulling in all the necessary data from ADO that we need to pull at runtime. There's certain pieces of data we don't want to be storing if it's either sensitive information or it's just an excess of data that we only need to really work with at runtime. The other piece too is our ADO importer in Congregate is built on top of our GitLab file-based export import functionality. So what this is doing is it's building an export of the data from ADO, and then we're leveraging GitLab's file-based import functionality to then get it all moved over. So we're basically building it all out. That's what a lot of these API calls are doing. We're pretty much pulling down and formatting pull requests and work items to convert them into GitLab merge requests and issues, convert them into epics, things like that. So if I refresh the page, the group might have come over already. Okay, so the group's here. If we see on the side, we can see there's epics that have already been created. We'll let it keep running. So we've just exported just the repo I'm referencing here. This is a bunch of pipelines. We're also going to see them get converted as well. So in the logs, you can see we're importing it using the file export we generated. It's going to take a second to get it imported. And basically, we've walked through the stage. We're in the migrate stage. Once the import is done, we'll move into post migration. That's pretty much any additional data we want to include outside of that initial import call. So that's where we're going to see things like CI/CD variables, CI pipelines in this case, and the import is finished. So I can refresh again. Now we can see the My Awesome project has come over. We're still moving some data over, to be clear. So we're handling uploads in the logs, we're getting notes corrected, things like that. But we can see while it's running, here's all the Git data from this repo in the ADO project. It's now been converted into a GitLab project, and here's the data with it. This is, again, just doing some corrective things. It's fixing data like attachments. It's getting issues and all that corrected. So you can see as well on the ADO side, if we look at like pull requests, we can see those get loaded. We see a couple of them are here. We can see it's converted over to merge requests. Notice too this automatic notification of a push. This is actually CI/CD translations happening. The way that functions is we're leveraging an LLM. It's taking the ADO based pipeline YAML and it's creating a GitLab pipeline as well. So this is like our Azure DevOps pipeline. If I look at this branch and I see the commit, for example, we can see it's converted to GitLab CI.
What's
Anyways,
the
yeah,
what's the LLM we're using there?
in this case, we're leveraging it's Anthropic and Claude, right?
Yep.
Evgeny?
Yeah, that's an Anthropic, but we set the utility in a way that it can be extended to support any other LLM.
Okay. So is this effectively just using like a Claude API token against like a project that you set up with some context?
Yeah. Yeah, we simply call the Anthropic API, provide the prompt, and provide the context that is asking for equivalent in GitLab. And then the return, we basically drop it into the CI file and then create the branch and then commit that.
Is this specific to ADO or would it be applicable to like GitHub and Jenkins or Bitbucket and Bamboo? Like, is it extensible in that way?
I don't see a problem to extend that. Yeah, at the moment we're testing that against ADO and collecting the feedback from the clients. And yeah, as said, we put it in the utility, so we have a pretty reusable utility at the moment. So it's configurable, as Michael said in the template. So we have like 4 parameters that we can pass. Yeah, like here,
Sure.
and then yeah, you can select the provider, model, system prompts. You can be like more specific what exactly you want to do there. So here on line 130, we say that we want ADO, but yeah, this is possible to extend to support other things.
Okay. All right. Let's stop it there. This is meant to be enablement, not like a strategy session. So I'll follow
Yeah.
up with you guys elsewhere.
Yeah, no problem. And yeah, we're still digging into some more of this for how we can extend this for other sources. But for the sake of ADO, this is we got this working for a customer so that we can speed up the time for them to leverage GitLab and all that. So and we'll extend it in the future. So anyways, yeah, the import finished. The project is all migrated. So if I move up a level, and Evgeny, we can start digging through some of this in case I'm missing something. You can see we have the coverage of the issues from the project, the merge requests from the project. We also have the epics came over. So we can see that these came over from, correct me if I'm wrong, Evgeny, these are not work items, right? These are epics from ADO to
Yeah.
GitLab. Okay.
Yeah, maybe a quick comment here. So basically what we do, we classify the type of the work item. So if work item and IDO is type of feature or epic, so we consider this should go to epic on the GitLab side. So therefore we create epic on the group level, and then we label that with the epic or feature. Like here you have one feature at the very top. So that was originally a feature. We still map it to the epic, and then the rest we basically map to and to the individual issues.
Cool. And yeah, so with this too, one of the other pieces we're including in the groups would be things like wikis. For the sake of this demo, I am going to skip it. We have a couple issues with our demo environment, but that is included. One other piece too, again, to make sure that the customer is ready to go from ADO to GitLab and just hit the ground running. We're also migrating over GitLab CI variables. So this is at the group level and the project level. So the variables that are stored at the different spots in ADO are coming over automatically as well. So that in conjunction with the CI translation should get them pretty close to up to speed and get them working directly in GitLab. One other piece too, so to kind of piggyback off what I just said with the CI/CD variables. So we saw group level. We also have so we have the group level variables. Oh, we have project ones in this too. That might just be group here. We also will migrate over any project level variables if they are present. We can see the merge requests, so we can see the status of them if they were merged, open, closed. You can see the diff across. So this should be a very familiar experience for people moving from ADO to GitLab in terms of them having the history to see, hey, when did this change happen? What does this look like?
Yeah, the changes is not shown here. Just a quick comment because it catches up a little bit later. So there is some background job, I believe, which is kind of collecting the difference, and therefore we don't see it here. So it should take some time to start appearing there.
Yep, and then let's see, branches should have come over, right? If we're not just anything past main. So you can see the branches of where we did the automatic translation. You can see some of the other merge request branches and some tags that came over. So we try to get as close to one-to-one as possible, but they're two different systems. So there will be some difference in the experience there.
Michael, would you mind to click on the issues place? I just want to give a little comment how we link issue to the actual merge request. So if you click on the third from the top, so basically add lorem ipsum button. So we also do link the pull request. So the pull request, that's the terminology similar to merge request to on the GitLab sites. And then the way we link that is basically we leverage these special characters like exclamation mark and the ID of the merge request, and therefore you see that kind of extension of the description with the related merge request. And then yeah, that's how you jump to the merge request. But if you return back, so you will see that the development section is fulfilled with the information about the merge requests that are being worked out. So yeah, here there's two references to the merge request. And then, yeah, because this is some differences between how we handle different functionality. For example, in Azure DevOps sites, they were creative. They created different places where you can keep attachments, where we have like a proper place for that. And if you scroll a little bit up, you will see that in the description, for example, we have a list of attachments that we've migrated. So we basically move them to the description. So this information is still available, present for the users that are moving from Azure DevOps to GitLab. It's just slightly different place, but yeah, it's all covered in our documentation.
Well, I think we've got everything. We've covered everything for
Yeah,
this.
maybe a little other comment that I want to make. If you go to the repository itself, and then just want to quickly comment on why we have multiple GitLab CI branches present. So basically, again, because there are some differences in how different things are arranged on Azure DevOps and GitLab. So for example, in this situation, we converted the pipeline using the LLM. However, we converted it 3 times. So why 3 times? Well, because on Azure DevOps, in a given project for a given Git repository, you may create as many pipeline definitions as you want. While, as we know, in GitLab, we have one unique source of truth where the whole logic is located. So basically a single GitLab CI file. So therefore, what we do in this case, we process each individual definition from ADO sites, and then we basically create equivalent, but we want to make sure that it's all reflected properly. So basically we create a separate branch, and we keep individual pipeline definition for the ADO. And the way we differentiate that is that the branch name contains the ID. So maybe you saw that like there's a GitLab CI 23. Yeah, and the branch name contains also a number. So basically the definition ID is taken from Azure DevOps. And then remember the first part of the demo today was around evaluate. So basically you can easily find out the definition ID that has this number in the evaluate report, and then compare that. And then of course, having the 3 branches in one repository, that's not ideal. So what we do with this conversion, we can kind of mimic the experience. So this is the definition that's you can use in the GitLab site. However, the final decision how this will look like at the end, it depends really on the owner of the repository. It's expected that the owner of the repository is going to review this data. Maybe they merge it, like optimize that. Maybe they come up with single pipeline, or maybe they come up with different pipelines, like one standard pipeline and one scheduled pipeline. Well, it really depends on the situation, but we try kind of mimic that experience, so it's possible to understand in a short amount of time how it looks like on GitLab.
Cool.
Yep.
Any questions, folks?
Is this something you plan to add to like our import docs or something? Because we don't have an Azure section when you look at like migrating from Bitbucket Cloud and all this stuff. I don't know if you want to call it out on our public docs, or if you have any other plans of making sure customers are aware that we can do this.
The answer is going to be kind of meta, because this video is for the blog post that covers how to do the migration. So yes, the blog post is attached to, will feed back into our runbooks to cover that. And docs will get updated accordingly too, to show how to migrate from ADO to GitLab.
And for now, if there are questions that come up, do we continue to tag you two initially as we roll this out and enable more folks on it? Because I'm sure the field will be curious about what we can do and the art of the possible.
Yeah, that sounds good. There's a few other folks that we could include in it, but for now, yeah, Evgeny and I can help field those questions, and then pull in some other people as needed.
Sweet. Thank you.
minor one. I was just touching on the multiple pipelines that can be executed. Is that would that be similar to how we can execute child pipelines? Or is it completely different job specs?
I think it kind of depends
Well,
on
these,
what the, go ahead, Evgeny.
I was just gonna say that these are just one-to-one. I mean, it's just basically directly convert or one-to-one converted from the Azure Pipelines YAML file to the GitLab CI file. So we don't leverage any child pipeline or anything like that. It's just like separate branches with a separate experience that you have in Azure DevOps. So we don't really try to combine or do anything complicated there. And the idea here is that if you have on the source this experience, how it looks like on the target, like on the GitLab, and how to make this experience in a in a short amount of time instead of like kind of going and looking at the documentation, what the syntax looked like. So it's just the idea to feed it to LLM and then get exactly the same experience. That's how it works. I'm not sure if we want to do anything beyond that, like overcomplicate that, because you don't really know like what is expected. Is it could be that the team that is migrating to GitLab plans to reorganize that. As I mentioned earlier, it could be that they plan to use CI/CD components, and maybe that will be kind of standard approach for the whole organization. Yeah, there are multiple ideas, and this one is just kind of optional thing that a team can try, and then yeah, to see like how it looks like. I hope that answers your question, Andrew.
Yeah, it does.
Maybe also quickly, like, I was also wondering, like, so this is optional then, right? Because I was thinking it's quite interesting, but I was also thinking, how do you verify that this works when you translate the YAML files? So
Yeah,
is
that's
there
why we
anything or
created
something?
Yep, sorry, good.
Yeah, that was my question basically, like how to verify, how to test this, like because using an LLM in an automated process, and then you have the GitLab YAML file. So does it work, or is it just like to show the customer, yeah, we got some basic and move on there, or we support then, or
Yeah, I mean, it's important that's why we have it as like separate branches and it'd be a separate merge request. We want to kind of gate that to make sure that there is a human in the process just to ensure that, if they don't have runners set up yet, but we've already done a conversion, let's get runners going. If we can run it through a merge request and have some pipeline, like make sure the pipelines are actually functioning, we can do that in a more controlled environment to see how well the translation worked. And, like Evgeny said, like it's possible that that's going to get us to show, hey, this is what it looks like in ADO to now this is what it looks like in GitLab. By the way, we have CI/CD components, so maybe there's some ways we can standardize this and then expand from there. So it's definitely not a let's immediately send to production, right? It's more just like let's let's get us to a good starting point, and then we can kind of go from there. And we've had some good success in the past doing similar mechanisms with customers to say, let's have this show up in GitLab, and then we can kind of keep building from there instead of going back and forth between the source and the destination.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
And a quick comment. Sorry, go ahead, Michael.
I just saw that there's also a system prompt, and yeah, this is very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, so basically we made it configurable. Yeah, as long as you have these 4 settings in the conf file, then this part will be picked up during the post-migration. So it's a post-migration step, right? Like we do a lot of as a post-migration, like formatting and user removal and wiki migration and CI/CD variables migration. And this part is also handled as a post-migration step. So if you have this in the config, then we definitely take it. Otherwise, we don't. But of course, it doesn't really go directly to production. So I would say it works well when you have some simple logic in your pipelines. And of course, if you have some complexity like templates and some complex pipelines, I don't really expect this to be one-to-one and immediately ready for production use. So I would say this is a way to demonstrate how things could look like on a GitLab site, and then you can make a decision what you want.
Yeah,
better than nothing.
Yeah, better than nothing. And I guess there's some post-migration activity in this area anyway, right? I just never did one with Congregate so far for a customer. But
Yeah, we also kind of seen, yeah, it produces different results, and you can play with the settings that I pasted in the chat. You can play with that. For example, you can use different model. You can try to play with the prompt and see if it produces different result. You can also rerun that post-migration step. For example, if you're not happy with the migrated YAML file, so you can rerun it again, and then it's basically the same experience like if you ask your LLM, hey, give me another result, I'm not happy with that. So it's going to be doing exactly this. I think just a quick one. One topic that we haven't touched here in the demo, but we can just kind of verbalize that. So we also do migrate the branch protection policies and the merge request settings. So things like squash commit or things like in this merge request, all threads must be resolved. These kind of settings, we also handle that. So basically we kind of read that. They are called differently. The terminology is a little bit different on the ADO side, but we found out them to the equivalent on the GitLab side. So we basically handle this one. And when it comes to protected branches, so for example, if you have like master or dev branch, and then you have different settings on that, we also do map different settings on them in the post-migration step. So we haven't covered that during the demo, but it's pretty straightforward. Okay.
Any last questions, folks? Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for joining this enablement session. We'll be posting this video sometime, I think, in the next couple of weeks, along with the blog post that Evgeny put together. So thanks everybody for joining, and we'll see you all on the next one.
Thanks, everyone.